Welcome to episode 160 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast. We're again back to Russian roulette of co-hosts.
No, I don't think that's it. I think
that's not just roulette.
Just roulette.
Yeah. Don't kill me. I wasn't advised of that part.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Katie is not here because she's being a good parent and doing stuff for their kid. But we brought Corey Martin here.
Hi.
So Corey Martin is Katie for the night. How's it going, Corey?
It's going well. How are y'all?
Good. It's nice to see that you survived South America.
I am still alive. There were questionable moments, but I made it back. So yes.
Seems like you left a lot of your blood in South America.
A lot. I did my part to support the local insect population for sure.
They are happy. They are well fed.
They are well fed.
I was very worried for you when you posted a picture and it looked like you had been in a bar fight.
Yeah, it was funny. I didn't realize that that's what it looked like when I first posted it. And then people were like, "Are you okay?"
Your husband's like, "Please don't tell people you fell downstairs." He's just like, I just like see him next to like every post. I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
I know. I disavow this post.
Man, those bugs kick. I watch like Naked and Afraid when they go down there, and then I watch how people just get like eaten alive, and I'm like, I get eaten alive here. That would fucking suck.
That one last year, the one where all the people came back, that was in Peru, and they were destroyed after the second day.
Yeah,
it was like just clouds of mosquitoes, just clouds of them. Even our guide, who's from there, said it was the worst he's ever seen it.
Of course, it was when you were there.
Yep. So
and you're like, no, I'm from Texas. I got this. And you're like, oh shit, no, these are worse than ours.
Yeah, no, I definitely went in all cocky like that, but yeah, not so much.
I did actually get to see Corey's husband on Sunday. I didn't see you though. I guess he just came.
Oh yeah, because I have COVID, so I couldn't. I had to get an enclosure. I couldn't do it, so he did it for me.
He's not hard to miss. Guy. He's like 17 feet tall.
He's the same height as you.
Yeah, he's not that tall.
Say he's skinny,
so
yeah, he's 6'4" like you, but he's.
But it looks different when you weigh. Right. You weigh much less than I do.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and get our sponsor stuff out of the way. If you're looking, Katie's on here. So again, if you're looking for a rack or a cage, get a hold of Robert. Lone Star Reptile Racks, lsreptileracks.com, or any herp show other than Oklahoma, because we're not going to Oklahoma. Speaking of herp shows, we're going to pull that up. The next one you're going to be at is this weekend in Slidell,
Louisiana,
which should be a good show. That's always a pretty good show.
Yeah. I like that show, and I'm the only one there with racks and cages. So
what?
Yeah, that's a good. I need it.
So there's that, and then the next show is Corey's hometown.
Yep, the Austin show.
Off to Austin, April 22nd, 23rd.
Yep, excited about that one.
I'm assuming you're vending that one.
I will be vending that one.
And then the one after that is our hometown show, the Pearland show, May 6th and 7th. So looking forward to that one.
Me too.
I think it's going to turn into a good show. It was very busy the first time, and it was just the first time. I think there's a possibility, because really, like, I know it feels like it's close to like Conroe because it's like an hour away, but it could be a day away at this point on the other side of Houston.
Yeah, it's a whole different group of people, I would imagine, for the most part.
Yeah, definitely.
People don't like driving through Houston.
No,
I avoid it whenever I can.
Sean started running billboards today.
Oh, cool.
So he's got 4 of them around on the southeast side of Houston mainly.
And that venue's decent. I like it.
Yeah.
Now, I would have wished they would have built side docks, loading docks, or something, but
they didn't build it for that. We should have. Sean said this weekend, he's like, I have confirmed the parking numerous times. We have the
VFW.
I remember that last time.
Yeah.
VFW was losing it.
Yes. They were starting to tow our cars. And then we also have the field, as long as it's not muddy.
Also, surprised the VFW doesn't hate us because I filled their dumpsters up with all the trash afterwards.
Really?
Because we had already filled our dumpster up, and their dumpster was across the street.
It might have gotten emptied Monday morning, and they never even noticed.
Hope so, because it was definitely packed. So that's the Pearland show, and then back over to Lake Charles, June 3rd and 4th. Corey, you've never done that one.
No, so I pulled back on shows, and then realized that I'm trying to do this full time, and pulling back on shows is not the greatest way to secure an income. So I'm on the wait list trying to get back into a bunch of shows now.
Corey's like, oh wait, this isn't a hobby anymore.
Right.
I've got to go do something.
I have bills to pay. I need to actually make money. So
how's the facility coming along?
So facility is ready. I was supposed to move this past weekend, but got sick and so couldn't move. And so it'll be not this coming weekend, but the weekend after that we move all the animals over.
Awesome.
So really excited to get in and just get to work. Yeah.
But you went the wrong way. You're getting more and more lizards.
I'm getting lots of lizards. I don't know what happened to me.
Every time I get online, it's like, oh, look, Corey's got another trio of whatevers. I'm like, well, fuck.
I know. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with so it's all dwarf monitors and tree monitors. And I'm just crazy.
But it loses being a dwarf when you have like 20 of them. Like that equals full size monitors at that point.
Well, food wise, sure. But they're so fun. They're little and cute. And some of them are friendly.
I do want some Kimberly rocks.
Yeah, I don't have any Kimberleys. I have Pilbara rock monitors, though. We talked about that, though, I think, didn't we? Yeah. And I'm going to be getting King's eggs really soon. My girl's ready to drop.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Those are the ones. No, I'm thinking of the King worm. Those are the ones that had the leucistics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
So after Lake Charles is June 3rd and 4th, that'd be a good one. I'm interested to see going back to that because Lake Charles used to be a pretty decent show. Conroe is June 10th and 11th. Then Shreveport. This is the first time in Shreveport on June 24th and 25th. If anybody's used to the Longview show, this is taking the Longview show slot, which I think is actually a better move towards Shreveport. There's more people in that direction. And if you've ever been to Longview, I'm not talking bad about I am talking bad about Longview. It sucks.
It's Longview.
It sucks. God, it sucks. The only thing vendors were like, you know what? I can't wait to go because of the grilled cheese. That was it. That was how excited.
Oh, that grilled cheese was good.
But that was it. That was the excitement. And then once you had the grilled cheese, you're like, oh no, wait, I'm still in Longview.
Yeah. And Tuscan Pig.
Oh, Tuscan Pig was pretty
good.
Oh,
Tuscan Pig is
Okay, is it bad that it's only the food that we're interested in? Like, there's nothing. We're there to make money, and
that never happened. Yeah, okay. Well, I say that my first show ever was Longview, and I sold out, but it was literally a truck bed full of stuff.
And you sold to all of the reptile people in Longview.
And it was and it was the first post-COVID show.
Oh yeah,
it was only the second post-COVID herp show. Conroe had been like the weekend before, so I had people driving from like Mississippi and stuff buying racks.
Oh, wow,
because they hadn't been able to get anything in 6-8 months.
And then we came crashing down to this. And this sucks.
We all sigh.
And then Slidell, back to Slidell, July 22nd, 23rd. And then Oklahoma City, it doesn't matter. It's July 29th and 30th. It's in Oklahoma. So have fun with that. All I remember last time I went to Oklahoma was 7 trillion flies. Corey, you weren't at that one.
I've never been to Oklahoma.
They had a rodeo and they had scooped all the shit into one place. And apparently
right by the venue, and it was sitting there for a week.
It's a great place to raise flies. And I mean, they were and like not small house flies, massive house. Like
I went to Harbor Freight and bought two electric fly swatters, and James just walked around 2 electric fly swatters. Zap, zap, zap. Wow. Thousands of flies in the venue.
Inside?
Yeah. No, this was inside.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, it was like the people that have mammals were miserable.
True, yeah, that flies all over the mammal.
And we were right next to all the sugar gliders.
Yeah, so I would just go across the cages and kill them.
Like literally, he would just swipe atop the sugar glider cages, and you'd hear pop, 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 like 15 at a time.
Yeah.
And then I was shocking my kid with it.
Well, sure. I mean, that's.
So Randy said he wants to hear about Corey's trip down South America. We'll talk more about that later in the show. We'll definitely talk about how Corey survived.
Sounds good.
If y'all found anything.
Yeah, we can talk about that for sure.
Besides mosquitoes.
We definitely found those.
And then also a shout out to Wiregrass Exotics. If you're in South Alabama, Wiregrass Exotics, check them out. And then as well as VivTech. I forgot to shout out to VivTech last week. Don't forget VivTech. If you need to save money on your LED UVB bulbs, use code Gumbo22. Go do that, please.
And they have their jungle cover ones back in stock finally. So
good.
Bam.
Yeah.
See, people need to go get them.
Yep.
And then use our code because then it helps us out. But I just want to again say thank you to all of our listeners because last year y'all crushed it using our code. We were number one in people using our code for VivTech. So
amazing.
Whoop whoop. So go get your bulbs.
There's our friend Lee.
Oh look, there's Lee ready.
Lee was my neighbor this weekend at the show. Lee and Amanda.
Responsible for me having to get a whole bunch of shit for a chameleon ready. Thanks, Lee. Oh, and I do have a sponsor for next month. We'll talk about it for our giveaway. It's our friends Colossal Constrictors. We had them on before. We're going to be giving away another Herpstat thermostat. So listen for that next week. Be paying attention to Facebook. We'll be giving a Herpstat thermostat away next month. I just got to figure out what we're going to do for the giveaway, but we are giving it away. Well, they're giving it away thanks to Colossal Constrictors. So let's go ahead and get to our guest while I quit rambling.
The guest.
So our guest, we bring him in. It is Mr. Bill Stegall of Phoenix Reptiles. How's it going, Bill?
Hey guys, I don't feel like a guest. I feel like one of the family.
It's been forever since I've seen you at a show, but
the last time I saw Bill was at a Longview show.
Oh, wow. I was gonna say I love Longview. I love going to Longview, but I was getting a little jealous listening to all you guys show talk because I've really been slow on the vending the shows since COVID.
Yeah.
It's just it's hard. It's hard for me. I mean, I love the herp shows. I love Sean and Lori. I think they're the best in the business, and I've enjoyed. I mean, I've vended not all of the herp shows, but I've vended a lot of them pre-COVID, and I miss doing it. But the fact of the matter is my wheelhouse is so. I'm on such opposite ends of the spectrum, like my ball python stuff that I absolutely love and I vend. It's not worth me taking and paying and going down and selling blue-eyed Lucy's and Pieds in San Antonio. When I can vend multiple expos here just locally in the Dallas area.
Oh yeah.
To do that, and
yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I love doing that, and I love entry level people and keepers, and I really, really enjoy that aspect. But it doesn't mean I want to travel 4 hours each way, spend the night in a shit hotel,
lose your entire weekend, your entire week schedule thrown off. Yeah.
It's more than just a weekend. Literally, as you know, it involves a day or two on each end of the weekend, and I mean it's tough. It's hard work. People, it's fun work, but it's taxing work. I preaching to the choir with you guys, it. But so that's why I haven't been out and about that much.
Corey was the fancy one who went off to Tinley.
Yeah.
Well, I had to squat at someone's table to get a table, but
I've done that at Tinley.
At Tinley.
We were talking before the show. It's certainly as much or more fun to go to, especially the bigger expos and not vend, right?
Yes.
It's so much more fun to not vend those bigger shows.
Hang at your buddy's table.
Yep.
So,
yep. Go back to the hotel for a nap in the middle of the day.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Be able to leave for food.
Yeah, that too.
Sleep in.
Yep.
Yes. I was listening to a podcast, or it's not really a podcast because it's on YouTube. I feel like it's not a podcast if you can't find it on podcast networks, but it was I think it's called Fauna Radio, and they were talking about are the big shows worth going to and vending? Are they worth vending? And it was interesting. I thought, some people say no because they don't make any money there, but I think it depends on how you look at those shows. If you look at it as a networking thing, then it's probably worth it. Yep. The big guys are always, if they don't make money, they've already made their money before the show ever started, right? Right. Bilka's already sold all of his snakes before he ever got there. Garrett Hartle has sold all his stuff before he ever got there. So it's cool to go see those guys. But if you're a smaller breeder, I think it's worth going just to get your name out. Don't go planning to make huge amounts of money. If you make any money, be happy.
But you can do the networking without vending.
Yes,
that's true.
You can do it more efficiently without the vending because you can actually mingle and see people instead of being locked behind your table the whole time.
That's true. But if you're willing, if you're okay taking a loss financially wise, going there and vending, I think it's still fun to do once or twice. Now, but I understand you're not going to get to walk around and see everybody's table. Like, take someone with you that can watch your table so you can go.
For sure.
Yes.
And it was interesting listening. Some of the people complaining about the bigger shows, talking about there was one complaint that they had that kids shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, what?
Yeah, there were a lot of people complaining about strollers at this last one.
It is what it is. Like, it's you can't go to like Disney World and be upset that there's strollers at Disney World. Like, reptile shows are not just for adults. I get that we like them, but we have to all pretty much agree that we need kids there because we need kids to buy stuff and get into the hobby. And
I think we can probably agree that Tinley is outgrowing its population, right? I mean,
Yes.
Is that why I've heard some talk about them potentially trying to get the big show in Schaumburg instead of Tinley? Is that right?
I know they're really working on that Schaumburg show and trying to grow it, and the venue's a whole lot bigger.
Is it?
Yeah, from what I haven't actually seen it, but that's just that's the word on the street.
When we went in 2019, that was the year they put people in the small rooms, trying to expand it into the small rooms down the hallways, and that was a nightmare because once you take them out of
that one too, that was awful.
Yeah, once you take them out of the main floor, people don't even know they exist, and I mean, people were leaving. Vendors that were leaving those rooms on Saturday. They didn't even stay all of Saturday.
Wow.
So yeah, you need a bigger room, bigger space for it all. But I mean, it is what it is. Like, I went to Daytona in the early mid 2000s, and that place was slammed, and it was bigger than what Tinley did. I mean, that place was massive. But that's kind of the fun. Yeah,
I've been there too at the same time frame. Yeah,
that's part of the fun to me. Now, I will say, being at so many shows that we go to, I don't have a problem with customers' kids as much as I do vendors' kids.
Yeah, that's a fact.
If you're at a show all weekend, vendors' kids are the biggest pain in the butt because, like, by Sunday they're like, "Oh, we can do whatever we want," and you just want to like clothesline. No, not all, but you want to clothesline them about the fourth time they come running by your table.
Yeah, there have been a few. There have been a few lately who've been a handful, but usually Katie takes care of them pretty quickly. So, they were pretty good this weekend.
Yeah,
I think Sean only had to yell at Bo once on the PA on Saturday, just because they were doing backflips or something on this. There's a stage in that venue.
You're telling me Bo was doing a backflip?
Well, he was trying.
You should have recorded that. I'd have paid to see Bo do a backflip.
Him and the other Bo, Ian's kid.
Oh yeah.
But it was joking, you know. But and we lost Andy's daughter and the Grant's daughter for a while because nobody could find them on Sunday, and there was like this little side room, like little hallway that they were in.
Yeah,
between like two of the rooms, like because there was like a culinary competition going on next door.
Oh, nice.
And they couldn't hear the PA.
Oh,
in there, and they were just in there doing little girl stuff, you know, playing whatever out there. And Andy was ready to go and couldn't find her anywhere, and was kind of starting to freak out a little bit. And then somebody's like, "I think they're in there." And he opened the door, and because Andy's like yelling on the PA, "Emily Rose, get here!" She wasn't coming, and yeah.
So there's a fat person in our chat that asked about do the shirts that I'm wearing come in a bigger size, and I would just like to say, fuck you. Just all I want to say.
Miss Chris, he hasn't been in our chat in a while.
Because Chris last time had a podcast during our podcast. Because he's trying to steal all of our 3 listeners.
17 right now.
That's all because of Bill. Those are Bill's listeners.
Yeah.
3 of them are.
Oh, I just opened up the chat.
So you just got dissed, James.
Yeah, I know.
He's used to it.
I ignore Chris.
Yeah. Chris. Hey, Chris, man.
But so I do want to get into.
I want to talk green trees. Let's get going.
Do it.
So I want to get into our question that Bill asked and then exploded once I put it on Facebook. It's always weird which questions get responses because I'll put one in there. I'm like, this is a good one, and then like 3 people reply to it. And then this one was everyone had something to say about green tree pythons, good, bad, or indifferent. The question was, what are the reasons more people aren't keeping green tree pythons? And so we'll go through some of the reasons, and then we'll get Bill's input, and he can tell people why they're wrong.
And Corey can help.
So our friend Adam Wickens from Wickens Wicked Reptiles said the cost the same as his first car, which in Canada, I could probably believe that. Everything's expensive in Canada. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much they cost in Canada, but I'm sure it's more than here because everything is. But I like Bill. I like your response when you asked if his first car cost $1,200. And yes, my first car did cost less than $1,200 actually. So, but I told Robert before we got on here, I think my first car was $1,000. And then when we got rid of it, we gave it away to the garbage man because he's coming by going, "Hey, what are you going to do with that car?" And I'm like, "Come back this afternoon. It's yours." And he came back and got it. So, but price does show up a lot. And we can talk about price.
We definitely need to talk about price.
I'm looking forward to talking about price.
There's a whole spectrum. Yeah. I mean, you've got like RUs and BIOCs and like imports where you can get something for pretty cheap. But then you've also got challenges with that. So it's kind of a pick your poison situation, I would say. What do you say, Bill?
Well, yeah, for sure. We could talk a lot about price, but like you said, Corey, a lot of times, you get what you pay for. And a lot of times, especially a first-time keeper that's going to an expo and getting an imported, Biak baby is going to be fraught with challenges. And, those things aren't cheap. I mean, if you go, you're looking at $500, right? So, and the other side of that is I won't really try to justify price too much because this is a weak, but not such a weak argument. Anybody that's established a clutch of captive bred green tree babies, will say on a lot of the circumstances that you look time wise, what I put into this clutch, establishing these animals, it's a labor of love. It's, it can be demoralizing, brutal, time consuming. And, I think there's a reason there's not 53,000 captive bred green trees available on North Market. is what I'm saying.
I just need everybody to know Bill breeds ball pythons, and he took a jab at ball pythons. It wasn't me this time.
You bet I did.
But
and you guys know I love ball pythons. They were the very first thing I ever worked with. I'm as passionate about them today as I was 20 plus years ago. For a lot of different reasons that I'm passionate about green trees, and that a lot of other people are passionate about ball pythons. But I have my reasons, but I love ball pythons.
I did something today I haven't done in a long time. I just went into my snake room and got a snake out and held it.
I do that every now and then. It feels good.
I haven't done that
crazy,
in
right?
a year, probably. I just went in and I was like, I'm going to get one of the snakes out. And I just opened up a tub and got him out and held him for a little while and just sat there and was like, I haven't enjoyed this.
Yeah, you didn't change his water. You didn't clean the tub.
Nope.
You didn't soak it or spray it or feed it.
Nope.
You just picked it up and held it.
I did found a mouse that didn't get eaten last week.
That's always
not in his tub, but
a week later it's already dry. You're good.
Yeah, Logan must have missed it when he went back and checked the next day.
That happens a lot with my Samboas because they take the Samboa.
Yeah,
they take shit and bury it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, luckily it was just a pinky.
Yeah,
but
assholes.
It was enough that I saw one of the little gnat things come out, and I'm like, open it up, and I was like, there's like 10 of them in here. Something's dead. So I started digging around. Sure enough, yeah, but you're right. It was all dried up.
Sometimes they dry up quick, especially and the smell. I don't get the smell. I'm like, oh, and then when I go to feed next week, I'm like, what the fuck is there a mouse in here? But it's mouse jerky at that point.
Yeah,
The Samboas are assholes about that. They'll take it, they'll wrap it, they'll look, they're going to eat it, and you're like, oh, we're good. I'll go to bed, and then they just like, nah, I'm good. I'm not going to eat this thing.
There's a guy trying to sell a Gila monster in Pearland.
That's going to go well. That's only illegal.
Yep, he posted it in a non-reptile Pearland group.
Oh yeah, post the venomous stuff in the
Pearland PD going to show up and knock on his freaking door. They're illegal in our county and in that city, so he's like double illegal there.
What a dumbass.
Yeah.
So I want to.
Yes, let's
say price.
Let's get back to price.
So here's my thing. I think for a long time many species have been undervalued. I think we've also overvalued some but the market is what it is. But I think like Dumeral's boas going up to $1,000 was ridiculous. Like that was, but I definitely don't think they should have been $125 like they were at some point. I think rainbow boas being more expensive now is great, but I think the work that it does take to go into green trees, we all know that they are not ball pythons, right? They're not boas. They are a little, they're not, bow red tails and all. They are a little trickier. So it does take time. And plus, like you said, you can go get a cheap one, but you're probably going to be one of those people that go, yeah, I had a green tree. It was mean. And then it never ate. And then it died on me.
Yeah.
And that's going to be your experience. You're going to assume that's all green trees because there's so many of those out there. And those are the stories you hear over and over again. You rarely hear the folks that paid $1,000 for the green tree. It's healthy. It lived forever. And it's been good because those people aren't going around complaining. They're not very loud about it. Yeah. So when you see these responses, reading through these responses, I think everybody's going off the negatives.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I couldn't have summarized it any better than you just did. And I'm a big believer in market forces. If somebody wants to pay a certain amount for an animal, I don't have a problem with that. And the prices in green trees, captive bred green trees, has fluctuated a lot. Right now, I think it's kind of at the peak of the market for whatever reason. they've become quite expensive. And I think a lot of it is availability. And there's some things that have happened in the last 5 to 10 years that have caused the availability of green trees to go down. And that's going to obviously inflate the prices.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, you've put time into it, and if you're going to buy something like that, you're going to buy it from a good breeder. Our friend Lee Reddy's in there. They breed panther chameleons. If somebody tells me they want a panther chameleon, I'm going to send them to him, and it's a $500-$600 lizard.
Mm-hmm.
Can they find them cheaper? 100%.
Sure.
But are they going to be as well established? Are they going to be as pretty? Are they going to survive as well? Probably not.
And with the Reddies, they come with lifelong support.
Yeah.
I've sent several people to Bill because if somebody says, I'm looking for a green tree python, I literally know one person.
Well, and I have a lot of people that are sent to me that I've then refer to others because I don't have the availability. What I have is not in their price range, but I know people that produce stuff that is. And, you can count on that if I refer you to somebody, it's going to be somebody that I would get an animal from myself. And I think customer service, especially in green trees, especially your first green tree, is just as important as the animal. And luckily, most people that are producing green trees regularly that I know provide incredible customer service.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's because no one's mass producing them. You can't. And so, everyone who's doing it, it's a labor of love for them. And they want to see people successful, and they want to see the animals that they spent all this time getting going be successful.
Yeah, for sure.
That was definitely my experience getting into green trees. Was I found a lot of people to help.
Yeah, and we're talking about these things like not being a lot of them available. They're difficult. Once you get an established green tree, neonate or subadult or whatever from a reputable source, that thing is going to be a beast. 95% of the time, it's going to be a feeding machine, easy to take care of. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about producing and establishing them. Once they're established and you get your hands on one from a reputable source and put it in the right box, these things are as easy to take care of as ball pythons. I truly believe that.
Well, and I think one of the things, so we go to shows and we see importers, because you can still import green trees from, obviously not Australia, but you can still import them from other parts. And so you see these full-grown green trees that are imports on tables that are much cheaper than what you're selling this small baby for. And these people go around going, well, I can get it for whatever over there. I don't think that people selling imports hurt your business, because people that are going to buy from you are going to buy from you. They're not going to buy a cheap import off the table. I think what people selling cheap import green trees does is hurt future reptile owners, because that is definitely an experience that will cause somebody to go, well, no, these things are too hard to take care of. It was too expensive, and I'm never doing this again.
Absolutely. And actually, it is illegal to import green trees.
Is it really?
It's illegal to import green trees from Indonesia. Obviously,
wild caught green trees. So you can import farmed green trees. Yes.
Gotcha.
You can import, quote, farmed green trees,
farmed, which we all know.
The vast majority of them are not farmed. But it's technically illegal to import a green tree. So any adult you see, it's there illegally. Now, listen, I'm not a law-abiding, pencil pushing, don't break the law, but it technically is illegal. And just as importantly, you're not probably going to have a lot of success with an animal, especially if it's your first one.
Yeah. And one, look, I don't have issues with resellers at shows. We have tons of friends who resell that retail wide do that. I don't have a problem, but I do have a problem in the situation where they're selling these cheap animals that they know don't need to. They take more care than someone buying a ball python, right? And so I feel, I'm trying to be careful because we have friends that do this stuff. But if you want to buy a certain species, especially a species like green trees or any species really, go find a breeder. Go find a breeder. It's your easiest way, especially if it's your first time and you're not someone who's trying to get new blood into a breeding project or try to start a hard keep species to see if you could do it, but you just want that pet snake. Go find a breeder and talk with them and get from a breeder first. It's your best shot, whether it's a sambo, a ball python, a green tree. Go straight to the source and don't go to the table at the show that has 20 different species on it. That's probably not your best bet for your first time snake.
Agreed.
You know, go to Corey Sable and buy you a carpet python. Just trying to help. Just trying to
There
help.
you
Corey. Or apparently monitors soon. You can go to Corey Sable and buy monitors.
Or green trees. Or green trees.
Or green trees. I only have 2 and they're both girls, so I'm probably not going to be selling green trees anytime soon.
Corey, do you know how breeding green trees works? That I think you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Do I need to have 2 boys instead? Is that how it goes?
Like, you could try that. It didn't work this way, so you should try that way also.
All right.
It's a good problem to have, 2 females.
Mm-hmm.
I keep telling my wife that. She doesn't agree. But anyways, I can say that she's not here today, so I don't get slapped.
I knew when that came out of my mouth that it was not going to go well.
It went well. So let's go get some more of these answers. Our friend Ashley Howdy over at Focus Cube, she also says they have several sub 1,000 animals, $1,000 animals that have been thriving for years. But if you want lineage, you're going to pay, just like we talked about. You're going to, and you should. They put the work and time into it. You should. But she also said one of the things that I think holds back people getting them are correct setups is the biggest issue, it seems. Pay attention to the animal and where they come from. A good setup isn't difficult with all the available information nowadays. It's not hard. They're not a ball python. You can't put them in a glass tank with some bedding and a log and go, hey, I'm keeping this snake right. So
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
Corey.
I was gonna ask Bill to share his magic little tip for keeping green trees perfectly moist. It's amazing, and it totally changed everything for me.
Well, I was going to say housing green trees. So I keep my baby green tree pythons in the exact same rack as my baby ball pythons. Same temps, same rack, same tub. Only difference I do is I put a plastic coat hanger, a single plastic coat hanger in there as a perch. That's it. That's the only difference. And I use paper towels as substrate, and that's it, man.
Well, Bill,
it doesn't get much easier than that, does it?
According to Facebook, you're a monster. That is horrible.
I am a monster. I am. I'm a Frankenstein. If you look at the shit that I produce.
True.
I do want to get to that too when we talk about subspecies of green trees and all that stuff in a little bit. But caging, but that's with anything. Proper caging is an issue with any animal you're going to keep. I think one of the most improperly kept animals are bearded dragons. Because everybody goes to PetSmart, buys a cheap bearded dragon, puts it in a 10-gallon tank. First off, it's too small, and then there's so many things wrong with that. But it's seen as a cheap animal. No one will spend the right amount it takes to properly house a bearded dragon, right? So, if someone's going around looking for the cheapest green tree, they're probably not looking for the best setup for that. And it doesn't have to be an expensive setup, but just the best setup.
Yeah, it can be so cheap. Literally plastic tub, man. That's the best setup for a baby and subadult green tree is a plastic tub. I don't know how it can be, especially if you're used to keeping other stuff, whether it's carpet pythons, ball pythons. Everybody is familiar with a rack system in a plastic tub, and back heat or bottom heat doesn't matter. I don't know how it gets much easier than that, really.
Okay, so here's another one I saw that I thought was interesting, and you comment on it. But this person, Lauren, said because they're more ornamental than handleable. And again, I think that depends on where you're getting them from, whether they're handleable or not. But what are your thoughts on them being more ornamental than handleable?
Well,
go ahead, Corey.
The answer is I've never had an issue handling a green tree. I don't have a huge collection of them, but pay attention to their body language and get them out respectfully, and I've had zero issues.
I've got a big collection of them, and this is what I like to do, like when people say that. So this is my monster. This is my green tree monster right here. It's night here. These are ball pythons on a stick as far as their temperaments go. They're docile by nature. They're shy. Their first reaction is to duck that head. And I don't know if you're frightened to reach your hand and pull this thing out. It's just, I've got 30 of these. They're all just like this. I can reach my hand in every single enclosure and pull it out just like this. And Corey will testify. She's been to my place a couple times, and it doesn't matter.
He can have a whole crowd of people there and hand them around, and they're just fine.
I've never been bitten by an adult green tree. That's the honest to God truth.
Huh. Do you think the issue is that a lot of people do start out with something like a ball python, right? And they're used to the behavior and the way a ball python acts. And then when they get something like a green tree, even though overall their behavior is very similar, but the way they move, it may be different. And so the person perceives it as them being nippy or aggressive when they don't move the same way a ball python moves.
No, I think what happens is they go to expos and they see imported Beox bite the fuck out of people.
Yeah.
I think that's what happens.
That's a good technical description of it.
It's hard to argue against that, just like it's hard to argue against this. Because if you get an imported Beox from an expo, that's what you can expect. It's just they're different. They're just two totally different animals. The stuff that's bred and hatched in captivity compared to the stuff that's shoved in a 2-liter Coke bottle, sent halfway across the world, and then expected to be in their new jungle home. It's just it's totally different.
Man, that thing is.
Isn't that gorgeous?
When I first got really into reptiles, Bill was on Joe's podcast, I believe.
Yeah.
And I really started, of course, the sickness. Anybody who knows anything about green trees knows that snake. And that thing just captivated me. And I wanted one, but then I read all the negatives and talked myself out of it. But that might have to happen one day. Not soon, but one day.
I've thought about, the problem is I really like breeding stuff, but I've thought about cutting down on
every time
on the numbers of stuff and changing it around and getting some. See, my thing is I don't want a green tree though. I want to go more expensive, unfortunately, and I want an emerald because I like boas. And they're really fucking expensive for me to spend on a snake that I'm probably not going to breed at all and make money back on. But I've always been in love with the way an emerald looks when it sits there coiled up on a branch with that big bulldog like face, like it wants to kill you. Whether it wants to or not, it just looks cool. It just like this is bad because we're talking about snakes not being mean, but like emeralds look mean just sitting there staring at you, and I want one. But we'll get back to some of these. So our buddy Darren, who I think maybe in the chat, he's in the chat, said he thinks the stereotype of them being difficult to care for is neonates. You get that a lot. That they'll just die on you. You see that all the time. They just die on you. And also says that the ones that are available are imports and have parasites. But you do hear that a lot. And people tell people all the time, you don't want a green tree. They're hard to take care of. And they'll just die on you. They will stop eating. So what's your, when someone tells you that, what is your elevator pitch to them on why that's not true?
Well, again, I would say, are we talking about imported babies, that look dehydrated, laying in a plastic tub at an expo, or are we talking about a captive bred baby that you get from a reputable source that's had a minimum of 20 meals, which is what I release my babies at, minimum 20 meals.
Wow.
And so, which of the two are you asking about?
I think for most people, it's probably the import, just because that's probably going to be the one that's most bought. I think, and the Reddies just commented about all the negatives that people hear about Panthers, but it's kind of the same thing. They keep their Panthers for much longer than you see a lot of people sell their Panther chameleons for. Mm-hmm. And they are much larger when you buy them. That they're eating, that they're healthy, and they're going to make it. And the same thing for green trees, or for really anything.
I heard 2 people this weekend tell Amanda that they couldn't believe that the one of their Panthers that they bring, that they showed everybody, has all of his nose.
Yeah, that hadn't rubbed them off. And they're like, yeah, that's what happens when they're happy. They don't rub their faces.
I mean, even captive bred baby green trees are not without their fault. They can prolapse. The prolapse rate is, you're looking at probably 5% of at least the babies that I've hatched and established here, will prolapse. And 90 plus % of the time, that's going to happen within that 20 meal window.
Gotcha.
So that's another reason that I don't want to send a baby off and eat 4 meals and then it prolapses. So again, that's another reason why I hold on to them so long, and that you can't just, unlike a ball python, get 3 frozen thawed meals in it, boom, put it on the table, put the price tag on it, you know. And again, all this stuff is coming back into, gosh, why are those things so expensive? You know?
Yeah, it's
okay.
You know, again, people, I think that's another problem. People just don't understand the price it takes for certain things. Like, not everything is meant to be cheap. I don't think everything should be cheap. So I like our buddies over at Repticulture, right? That's a retail reptile store, but they don't sell anything under $100 or $120, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But they have a higher price on everything, even on like a leopard gecko and some of the things that we normally think of cheaper, because they try to put a higher price tag on it so that you don't get the person coming in buying a cheap animal and then throwing it into a cheap setup.
But they did have a lady call today and wanted to sell them a turtle that she caught crossing the road, and then got mad and cussed her out and hung up on her when she said, "I'm not buying the turtle that you caught crossing the road today, lady."
Jeez.
Yeah, we almost found a new business model.
They just go out and find turtles. Well, there was that guy up north who just kept going out and finding catching pregnant diamondback terrapins and then taking their eggs. So
oh my god.
Going through. So one I did see before was one issue I think people have is paying the high price tag for something that they're not positive that is sex. The whole sexing of green trees is not the same as ball pythons or boas and stuff like that. It is definitely trickier. So how does that whole process work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And up until a year ago, we had this figured out for a lot of captive bred green trees, because there was a company that for several years was able to, using the sexes of the parents and of the neonates, determine the sex genetically based on the shed, which was a game changer for the green tree world. It was a game changer for consumers and for breeders. But unfortunately, that has gone away. There's some issues I'm not real familiar with of exactly why the technology to this point has been lost, or the company is no longer able to perform that service. So we're back kind of a few steps back there. Hopefully that will change, and we'll be able to get this sexing thing back here relatively soon. But yeah, it's an issue because you can't safely sex a baby green tree without a high incidence of tail kink, because they're so fragile. You can sex them all day long. They're easy to pop. But you're just really risking a tail kink as they get older.
Man, that's crazy. But yeah, that is a very skinny tail. Even on an adult, it's a very skinny tail.
So it's unbelievable. And on a neonate, it looks like tissue paper. It's that. You can literally see through it. It's that transparent.
Yes, that's again why I like my boas. I can just run my thumb down it.
Reach down there.
It's so much easier.
So yeah, sexing is definitely an issue. But again, for somebody that is concerned about the sex, that leads me to believe that they're thinking okay about breeding the animal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you have any inclination about breeding green trees, that is the ultimate game of patience. So, man, it doesn't matter. You know, you could get really unlucky and you could get 4 and they could all be the same. They could be 4 males. But it's one of those things that you just, you have to get them up to a certain size where it's safe to sex them. And it's not a curse to have 2 or 3 males. Like maybe it is in ball pythons. Like you wouldn't want 3 of the exact same breeder male ball pythons. Green trees, it's a different game, and the males are really just as valuable as the females. So, you know,
well,
you get 3.
That's why I think if you're doing something, especially green trees, make sure when you're picking out which ones you want, you're picking out not just grabbing a random green tree. You're like, I want to breed. Be very specific and very selective, because that way, if it does turn out being the opposite sex or whatever, you at least got a snake that looks the way you want it to look. That is the way. You're not like, oh no, I wasted all this time growing this up.
Yeah, or has the genetics or the locality that you want, that you find valuable.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, absolutely.
So don't just go pick up that random male off of a table at a show because it was cheap. It may not work out for you in multiple ways.
Yeah, and just don't rush it. It's in green trees. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. So one other thing that popped up quite a bit in the comments, and I was looking forward to bringing this one up with you, was the attitude of the green tree python keepers.
I love this one.
It came up a lot that green tree python keepers are elitist, and that's been a thing for a long time. You always see, I've seen memes where it's like the different Winnie the Poohs, and then it's like Winnie the Pooh in the top hat and the coat, tuxedo. That's green tree python keepers. You do see that a lot. That they are, the people at least say it. I'm not saying you see it in individuals, because trust me, I've seen ball python people that are douches also. So that's not a it's not a species specific thing. There are assholes in all groups. But what
I loved this, but I would like to hear, before I say something, I'd like to hear what Corey has to say about elitism in ball pythons, because she keeps, green trees. She keeps green trees, and she knows enough green tree keepers to have a very formulated opinion about it. So I want to hear what she has to say about it.
So I'll say, I don't know if this is that I know a lot of Texas green tree people or just green trees in general, but green tree people are some of the friendliest, like most welcoming, funnest people that I know in the hobby. They want to see everyone succeed. I think it comes just the reputation of that comes because people care about lineage. And anytime you're like caring about, really paying attention to lineage, I think that people get this idea that there's exclusivity and that sort of thing.
It's like that with gray and king snakes too.
Yeah, or like diamonds, it's that way as well. Like you have a lot, and there's a similar reputation for diamond keepers.
The moment you start using locales, people automatically assume, or scientific names. Either way, locales or scientific names, like, it's an elitist group. I'm like, no, they just talk differently.
Right.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it's I couldn't be further from the truth from my experience. But
I think the only two people that I would consider green tree people that I know is Bill and Jason Brumley, but he's not even really doing it anymore. And they're two of the nicest people I have spoken to at shows. I think it just comes from because they see that it's a higher end animal.
It's the price tag also. I assume
they're generally kept a little better, and people care about lineage, and people take that as being what's the word I want to use? Uppity. I don't know.
I'm gonna real quick shout out Mark Hager, because he's one of the people in Texas who's
you go. Mark is a great example.
One of the so he runs the Texas Chondros, and his whole thing is shouting out other people and showing off other people's great animals, and he is like the most friendly, approachable person you could ever imagine meeting. And so it's complete opposite.
I have a theory, and I want to say Jason Brumley is, again, salt of the earth guy.
Yes.
He is one of
he's
one of the best human beings on the planet, and I can say that about so many of the people in the green tree community. Matt Morris is another one. Y'all may not even know the name Matt Morris, but he's from Austin, just a super great, down-to-earth guy, would do anything for you. But I think a lot of the elitism comes from, I entered the green tree community about 12 or 13 years ago. And when I did, there was no social media, but there were forums. And there was a big forum. There's a big forum called the MVF, the Morelia Viridis Forum.
Yeah.
And when I entered the green tree community, so you had to be known, you had to get on there. And to get on there, you couldn't just log on there. You had to make an introduction post. So you couldn't just come on and go, hey, these are my green trees, or I'm going to get a bunch of green trees. You had to go, my name's Bill Stegall. I've been keeping ball pythons and carpet pythons for 8 years. I'm thinking about getting my first green tree, or I just got my first, and you had to be respectful, and you had to be mindful of the community. And that was just the standard. It was dictated back then. And I don't know if that is so much elitism as it is just pride, pride in the community, pride in the animals, pride in the fact that, our community holds itself to a very high standard. And, they expected you to be respectful of the people that were there before you, that were before me, generations before me, that made this happen. Okay, these were the guys that figured this shit out so I can produce animals like this. And there was just an expectation that you respected that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
You know,
that's like if you talk to a lot of the ball python people today and you say the name Ralph Davis or the name VPI.
Oh,
Tracy Barker, and they don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it wasn't for those guys, you wouldn't be doing this today.
Well, that shit doesn't fly in our community. In fact, our most recent, you know, I do a podcast called GTP Keeper Radio, and our last 3 or 4 times a year, and our last episode was on our founding fathers and the people that really influenced, you know, our community and why we're able to do the things we are now. And I don't see that in a lot of other communities. So if that's elitist, if people think that's elitist, then I'll take it, you know, with a badge of honor.
I don't think it's elitist. I think the problem is I think social media is a lot of the problem. It's very easy to get on Facebook and join a group in Facebook and have a voice on Facebook without having any experience in what you're talking about. The forum days, like a lot of us are on the forum days say we miss the forums, and I do in a way. I miss the way it was kind of like you sat down at a computer and you logged on, you looked at what everybody posts that day and you read through it all. It was so different. And people paid more attention, I think, to what was being said and what was happening. I do miss that. But I think that it's like ball pythons. There's 50,000, 55,000, whatever ball pythons on Morph Market, right? Because the community, it's not really a community, is what it is, but the community of ball python
down to 41,000.
41,000. The community of ball python people is very large, and it's a mixture of everybody, because everybody just was like, I'm gonna get ball pythons, and they got them. Whereas the green tree, to be a green tree breeder, you're not just gonna throw them in a shoebox the way you do ball pythons and they automatically breed no problem for you, right? There's got to be more. There's more involved in the breeding of green trees. So automatically you do take a little more pride in what you're doing than being, hey, look, I bought these 2 already breeder sized ball pythons at a show, and now I'm a breeder. I'm gonna make my first clutch of eggs and have them ready in 3 months. But so I think that pride that is taken in breeding green trees is not uppity. I think it's still well deserved. I think it's a well deserved pride in doing something that is not as easy. Or else, if it was easy, we'd see green trees everywhere.
What do you think, Corey?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything to add on that.
The only thing I know a lot of ball python breeders that are super proud, you know, of their productions, and they should be.
Agree.
But you're right. You can't just you can't take 2 adult animal green trees and get them, and 3 or 4 months later expecting them to lock and produce successfully. It's different. It's not any better. It's not any worse. It's just different. You know.
Well, and the problem is there are definitely ball python people in those groups that are much like the green trees, who take pride in what they do, and they plan things out and they're taking care. But the problem is there's so many others with louder voices, not better voices, just louder voices.
Yeah.
That they get drowned out. Whereas with green trees, there's not. Right? Those louder voices, if they're like, I'm gonna get into green trees, they're the ones that kill a green tree in the first month and go, fuck it, these things are too hard to keep, and they move on.
Yeah, that's
luckily for the hobby. Yeah. But I think every group is kind of, I mean, you know, they talked about short tails and bloods. I know, and you hear all the time how great that one is. You know, when April used to be your co-host on here, she would tell you all the time how the blood.
Love April.
Yeah,
and I love that community. I'm in that too. I'm in the short tail community too. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I've met Matt Minatola at Tinley, an amazing man, awesome, great animals.
Matt's my boy. I've known Matt a long, long time, and we're very, very good friends. Lon Drexler. You could go through the history of the blood in the short tails, and God, they got Keith McPeak, for God's sake.
Oh yeah, Keith. I met Keith there. Keith is awesome too.
You know,
or Tracy.
Yeah, they're all just stellar people. But you don't get that, like, you've never heard of them as being, or refer to as an elitist community, really.
No. And it's, I don't know. When I entered, so you were at Daytona around the same time I was going. That's back when they used to have the Chondro Coalition there at Daytona.
Yeah.
You walk in, they had their whole little corner, and you walk in, you're like, Jesus Christ, it was much different than any other section of the show because it's all these like white cages and all of these chondros set up, and it's like like walking into a zoo of chondros.
Yeah, I want those days to come back.
Yeah, I thought it was cool because these guys took so much pride that they got together and they set up. It wasn't just a table with some deli cups and some animals on it. They set up an experience. You walked in at one point, they had them like in a little cove, and you like walked over in this little cove, and it was all green trees. That's not elitist. That's going, look what we have. Look at these animals deserve to be shown like this, and you deserve to see them like this.
Yep.
And so, I don't think it's elitist. I think a lot of people feel that way because it's not $100 ball python or $100 sambo or whatever. It is a $1,000 animal, and that doesn't make you an elitist. Blackheads aren't cheap. Blackheads aren't elitist.
That's true.
And
Corey has those too.
And ball pythons, the most expensive ball pythons dwarf the price of
Absolutely.
green trees.
Absolutely.
So, I think when people say it's elitist, they're not talking about the price of the animals. They're talking about the members of the community, and that's what I want to try to dispel or.
I'm wondering if part of it is just because there's expertise involved. There back to the idea of, it doesn't take a lot of expertise to breed something like a ball python. But for other species that are, really harder to breed, harder to establish, that kind of thing, there is a certain amount of accomplishment and knowledge that's required to be able to consistently produce that, and I wonder if that's part of it too. Maybe
I don't know. I can understand it because, like I said, I still remember coming into the community. I felt like I was walking on pins and needles. Like when I had to make my introductory post to the community, I went back to spell check, make sure I didn't miss any capitalization, make sure I felt like I was walking on pins and needles. And so I get why people think that. I really, really do. But again, going back to one of my other points was I think it's more of not a pursuit of perfection, but just really holding the community and the keepers at a high standard.
Yeah.
That's
it. Going to the chat, there's a few things. So my dad had a quote in there that he said there's a difference between being elite and an elitist.
Excellent.
Elitist is definitely an attitude. I know substance. It's great. But elitist is a personality. It's an attitude. It's a way that you carry yourself, and it rubs people wrong. Don't look, like I said, I pick on ball pythons because it's easy, but there's tons of ball python breeders at a show. I can find you far more ball python breeders at one reptile show that I find to be dicks and douchebags than I can trying to search through the entire green tree python community. And they've been doing it for all of 6 months, and now they're an expert on keeping and breeding this species of ball python. But
trust me, there's green tree keepers that have the same mentality. Trust me, they're out there.
I stay away from them. We're good. I do. So Lee Reddy said all the OG chameleon keepers and breeders are all nice and great part of the community. He said most, not all, but most new chameleon keeper people are assholes to each other.
Really?
But that, I think that's kind of people in general. Our hobby pools in a large variety of people. Just us alone here, we are a large variety. If someone were to meet Bill outside of a reptile situation, you wouldn't go, that's a snake guy. Because you don't look stereotypical snake guy. What everyone thinks outside of the hobby, a snake person looks like. But in the hobby, we realize that those stereotypical snake people aren't usually the norm. That's just what everybody sees. But I think because we pull in such a large variety of people, I see a lot of new people coming into the hobby that don't come in earning their knowledge. So again, like on the forums, you would sit there and read forums for days before you ever thought of something important enough to post, right? You weren't going in there most of the time and posting something every few hours because you had to say something. right?
Saying my noodle made a right hand turn instead of a left. Yeah.
So,
What does that mean?
so there was knowledge gained. There was time and effort taken into reading stuff, learning stuff, and figuring out things. Where now, because all that knowledge was gained by people, and it's so easy now to find a YouTube video that you can watch in 5 minutes, and now you're an expert on a species. There's some people that enter into the hobby and get into that species and automatically feel that whatever they have to say is important. Anything other people have to say is not important. And yeah, like Lee said, they become assholes pretty quick.
I'm cracking up at some of the comments. They're pretty funny.
Yeah, so so Darren was asking a question about how you keep your animals, and I'd like to wonder if you could talk more about how you keep your animals.
Yeah, let's definitely do some husbandry.
Cool.
I think I said earlier, I keep my babies and subadults in the exact same rack, in the exact same temperatures as my baby and subadult ball pythons. Only difference is I'll keep the green trees in the lower levels of the rack, just because naturally they're a few degrees cooler. And I'll put a plastic coat hanger, 1 or 2 perches in there, depending on the size of the animal. So the temperatures, I'm looking for a cool spot of about 78. This is for a baby, 78 to 80, and then a warm spot that'll max out at maybe 88 degrees. Again, very doable, right? In a ball python setup.
Sure. Yeah.
I keep them on the babies in particular, paper towels, water dish in the front of the tub. The only real difference is that I do provide fresh water more frequently to the green trees than I do baby ball pythons. So baby ball pythons get fresh water once a week, unless they soil the water, and they get fresh water. Baby green trees get fresh water twice a week, unless they soil the water. I think hydration is more important in a green tree than it is in a ball python, and that's probably because like where they come from, right? Green tree pythons come from, the rainforest, and are used to having, I'm sure, a very fresh water source. Ball pythons fucking come, from the African desert, and they're not getting fresh water for longer. So that's really the only difference. I do keep the humidity for the green trees higher. And when I say humidity, I don't measure humidity. I've never measured humidity in a baby rack or an adult cage. But I do provide humidity, and I do that primarily by saturating the substrate, usually once a day or once every other day. And usually I'll try to have a cycle where at the end of the day, I'll come back and that substrate will then be dry or maybe just a little bit damp. But so that, that's how I keep them. I don't know. Did I miss something?
No.
So do you ever spray your animals?
That's a great question, and we could have a 2-hour discussion about spraying green trees. I spray my animals, and I spray them quite a bit. Certainly, when they're in the shed cycle, I spray them every day. But a lot of this spraying stuff depends on a couple different things: your ambient humidity, the enclosure, cage, or rack that you're keeping the animal in, and the animal itself. So you have to get to know your animal. And the goal of spraying is to spray just enough to have a good shed cycle. So if you can never spray your animal and it have a good shed cycle, great. If you have to spray it twice a day, every day to get a good shed cycle, great. For most people, it's somewhere in between those two.
Do you find that your animals like to drink the water that collects on the side of the cage when you spray them? You don't notice?
I can't honestly ever remember seeing a green tree licking water off its coils.
Yeah, I don't think I have either. I was just curious.
I've seen them drinking. I love, everybody loves to watch their snake eat. The green tree keepers, it's like, holy fuck, get the camera out, it's drinking. So I've seen them drink. It's awesome to see them drink, and you do notice them drinking when you give them a fresh, cold, big, bowl full of water, I think it makes a difference. So I do, other than the ball pythons, I tend to keep larger water bowls, more fresh water. But again, such small little differences. I just call them nuances.
That's interesting because in the wild you assume because they're a very stationary snake that they would be drinking a lot of that water that settles, that dew and stuff that settles on them.
Sure, maybe they are.
But I guess in captivity, why? There's a giant bowl of water 5 inches away. Why am I going to waste all this time trying to lap up a small little piece of water? I just go to the bowl.
Well, I will tell you this: green tree pythons are not the smartest animal on God's earth. I'm sure Corey can testify to that.
Mhm.
They will make you shake your head sometimes the ways they will try to kill themselves. You think?
They're
Sounds like hognose snakes. Right,
so,
Corey?
what?
Sounds like hognose, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh, a different way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
If you leave any amount of slack in a light or heating element, electrical cord in the cage, it will wiggle its way up into that cord and it will try to perch on it.
Yep.
And you think it's going to try to freaking hang itself.
Yep.
That's funny because my big red-tailed boas, any slack left in like a heating panel, they'll find it, they'll get up there, but they can't hang, they can't perch on it, they just yank the whole damn thing
yank it down. Yeah. The green trees will perch on it and it drives me crazy.
So one thing I want to go back to that I found interesting, we're talking about prices, kept bringing up lineage. And so I find lineage in green trees interesting because when we get to things like the sickness and a lot of these I guess designer green trees, lineage at that point is really who were the parents, not so much which locale, right? Because a lot of these are mixed locales when you get some of these really weird color patterns and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, most of the designer stuff are so far out of locality crosses, you couldn't even begin to say what percentage Biak or Kolfiau or Aru or you just can't even, it's totally different. So basically there's people that enjoy working with localities and like Gary Chavino, David Brahm, Ryan Young, all great examples of people that really like working with locality specific animals. And they're really trying to do the same thing that I'm trying to do. They're trying to bring out like the best, like the highest white arus or the bluest manicory.
Bill's like, just mix the shit together to happen.
I'm like, yeah, why waste your time with that when you can pop out a sickness,
Yeah.
But those guys are working with locality specific animals. And I'm working with what you described perfectly as designer animals, which means they're mutts. Their locality is so far lost that nobody even really cares what percentage, Biak it is. It's all about how blue were its parents, how black were its parents, or its grandparents, or whatever.
One thing that the Green Tree group and more, okay, I know they're not Morelia anymore, but all Morelia, and I'm throwing green trees in there. One thing that as a group y'all have done well that I can't do because I don't name shit is y'all have named breeder animals. And that has been the biggest way of selling shit that I've ever seen that works.
Awesome,
people are like,
right?
they say a name like, oh God, I need a snake from so-and-so. I'm like, I don't even name my own snakes. How do y'all know everybody else's snake in their collection?
It's great.
People who do that too.
It's great marketing. I'll be the first to admit it that, throwing out stupid or crazy names is great marketing. And the sickness was one of them, I mean, it was a very, very unique animal when I produced them. And I just kind of got lucky by naming him. And then just the fact that I'm a physician, and then to be able to name all of his offspring pathological names, it all just kind of flowed together and it's kind of marketing for sure, but it's fun too to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've talked to people that do educational shows, and that's one thing they say about their animals, that they give their animals names. When they go to an educational show and they show a snake to these kids, if they don't say the name of the snake, there's always that question of what's its name. Because I get that too when I bring animals to school for like genetic stuff. They go, what's its name? I'm like, it doesn't have one. It's snake number whatever. It doesn't have a name. But it does make a connection with people when you give them a name. And look, if I was smart enough, I would do it, but it's just not going to happen. I would give names to everything and go, look, this is Susie Q over here, and these are Susie Q's babies, and everybody needs Susie Q's babies.
To me, it's so community based. It's like you look like an idiot if you did that with your ball pythons, right? I mean,
yeah, there's no lineage in ball pythons.
It's just not like a community, I guess, standard, or it's just not a thing, you know. And I don't give my ball pythons. Mr. Fluffy's not going to breed, you know, Mrs. Pink Eye. It's just not going to happen.
Damn it! I was wanting a baby from Mr. Fluffy.
So it's just the way that things develop in the different communities.
It's just it's like I said, it's an interesting way of marketing, and who would have thought that would do it? But it does. Like I said, with carpets, I've listened to the guys over Morelia Carpet Python Radio, and you'll listen. Yeah. And they'll name some snake, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I know that one." And they're like, "There was a picture of it that floated around the forums." Like, the fuck? It was. How do you remember so and so's one random snake? But they say that, and then when they do mention that one jaguar, I'm like, okay, no, I do remember seeing that one jaguar. I forget its name, but it was on the cover of a magazine, and it was everywhere. So yeah, I got that. But Madame Blueberry, but that's another thing where people that get into a hobby that don't know the history, and they hear that, and they have no clue what that is. Now with green trees, I can't imagine if you got into green trees, you have to know who the sickness is by now, because it's so weird looking when it comes to green trees. It shows up all the time. But I would imagine if you get into green trees and don't know what the sick or who the sickness is, that's an issue. You should do a little bit of research in your part of the hobby and know these things.
Well, it's I'll just say it's a lot easier to keep up with the green tree genetics than it is ball python genetics.
Oh yeah.
I mean, God, I can't imagine coming into the ball python game as a new person now. It's so daunting. Yeah.
I just laugh all the time when I look at these people that get into ball pythons who barely passed high school biology, and now they want to act like they're a genetics wizard because they know what this and this and this do. And I'm like, but do you actually know what those genes do? Do you actually know how that works? But they're all like, yeah, I've got a so-and-so's whatever. And I'm like, that doesn't mean shit to me. I don't know what that is. All I know is it's going to end up being brownish, grayish, black. And people are going to go, it's different than the other brownish, grayish, black one. But like when you show me some of these green trees, that's another thing I found interesting. Well, like, so when we say lineage, it's not locale based, but wasn't there a study not that long ago that basically said, hey, all these green trees are the same?
Well, it seems like it's going the other way. Like they keep breaking down. Now it's not just Viridis. It's Azura, and they keep fractionating the green trees, and a lot of people think soon that Biak and Aru will be its own subspecies. And I don't know. When I got into it, they had just changed it from chondropython to Morelia. So I don't know. I don't really. That's kind of not my thing. I just want to make wicked looking snakes.
I'm with you there.
I'm not too much about. Even though I am a scientist, I'm a biologist. To me, that's just not like what I'm into. I don't really care if I'm subcrossing subspecies or.
Yeah, well, it takes for some. It takes the fun out of it. I mean, but like some people get so uptight about that. That's why I find it interesting with carpets. Like if you look at some jungles and some coastals, and you're like, they're pretty close.
Yeah.
And so that was in the most recent carpet python book. They basically did genetic research and found out that a lot of what we were calling carpet versus coastal, jungle versus coastal, actually it's basically the same thing. And there's there's northern coastals and southern coastals, and maybe those are two different species. And then you've got it looks like now that some of the northern stuff plus Darwin's and IJs are all kind of the same species, and it's all it all changes all the time. So
it's all made up boundaries that we decided and made up names that we decided. So genetics, that was the other genetics thing that got me was when I was reading the one on the green trees, it was like the percentage difference in DNA from one group to the other, and it was this large number. But then I'm like, Well, fuck, the percentage difference in DNA from chimpanzees to humans is like less than 1%. I don't understand. Like, how are we doing this now? Because you're telling me these two green trees, which look very similar, are drastically different, but we look nothing like a chimpanzee, and we're really fucking close to them genetically. So it gets confusing.
You can understand why people were upset when they changed chondropython to Morelia. Like, these things do not look like carpet pythons.
No,
Not at all.
They don't act like carpet pythons, and then you look at rough scale pythons, even closer genetically to green trees than carpet.
Mhm.
They don't look like them. They don't act like them. It's just.
Or what gets me is North American rat snakes. And Robert and I have talked about this before when they try to be like, all right, they're all the same on the east side of the Mississippi and they're all the same on the west side of the Mississippi. That's our dividing line. I'm like, I've seen Everglades rat snakes. They're not a gray rat snake. Like that's not the same snake. I get that we have rat snake in the name, and I don't know. Taxonomy gets very interesting, and sometimes I think it's just, well, in Australia it's for sure, but sometimes people just want to hear their own voice.
Agreed.
And name shit after their dog. But so anyways, that's like I said, green trees I find interesting. I've always been a fan of the emeralds, and at some point I'm going to get one. But I'm not going to lie, I don't, and people can make fun of me. I don't know the difference between a basin and I don't know the difference. It's green with white and it looks fucking awesome, and I want either one. But one costs way more.
Yeah.
But
you need to get an emerald expert on the show. I'm certainly not that. I can appreciate their beauty. I absolutely love the way they look. I've kept one for a short period of time as a subadult. It was fantastic. But maybe Corey has more expertise than I do.
I don't. I've never kept an emerald. I think it has to do with like where they're found. But in terms of why certain ones are more expensive than others, I don't really know.
Well, and it's one thing they'll tell you, well, it's got these markings. I'm like, I get it. And I guess if I stared at it, I would know that. But
phenotypically, you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
You can. And size-wise, the basins get bigger.
I knew that. I did know they got bigger.
But that's all my expertise goes.
I was listening to I'm gonna feel horrible because I can't remember the name of the show. What's Rob's podcast? Reptile Talk?
That I don't really listen to.
Rob Christian?
Yeah. Shit. I feel horrible. Yeah, Reptile Talk.
Mhm.
They had a Amazon tree boa roundtable, which I found interesting because that's another one of those species. If you're talking about snakes that probably shouldn't be as cheap as they are. I mean, Amazons.
Absolutely.
I remember they are like, it was always kind of like a garbage snake on tables because you could find them super cheap on a table. But it was interesting listening to these guys who have spent time breeding them for certain colors and this and that and trying to figure it out. And they're still trying to figure out genetics of that because they don't know how all the genetics work in those. And I'm like, man, those have been around for a long time. And they're still trying to figure them out. But it's very interesting. People always lump green trees, emeralds, and Amazons kind of together because they're our arboreal python, boa. But Amazons, I think, they're very noodly. I can't get past them being so noodly. At least
I didn't get it until I saw we found one in the wild when we were in Peru, and it was freaking cool. I think they're really underrated.
But I mean, you could find them. I remember you'd be able to find them on tables for like $30-$40.
Yeah. The one we found would be like $60 on someone's table. But
again, they would get that
cool.
same thing that happens with green trees. People go, they're hard to take care of. They're mean. They bite all the time. And I'm like, well, yeah, they were just in the jungle like a week ago. And now they're in a cup on a table being stared at by giant monkeys. Yeah, they're pissed off. But if you think about the same way with Bill, you find someone that's breeding Amazons and they've done it and they have several generations of Amazons, that's going to be a completely different snake and a completely different experience. So I'm kind of interested. I was like, well, that would kind of be cool because I mean, they do come in bright orange.
They're beautiful and they stay manageable size. Like that's why I like the green trees. Over the Amazons is they stay such a really very manageable size, to keep a rather large collection.
Well, and they stay, if fed properly, they stay right size, right? Because, for a long time, people overfed green trees and got them big, but they're not supposed to be a big snake.
Yeah, absolutely. You can overfeed. These green trees, they'd eat every night if you feed them. It's easy to get them big and obese, but if you don't do that, I keep all my males in 2x2 by 2 cubes, and a lot of my females, smaller females, same size. The bigger females, I'll give them an extra foot, in horizontal space. So 3x2 by 2. But shoot, I've kept and bred. I've bred a small adult green tree in a Cambro tub.
Oh wow!
I believe it.
It can be done. They can be kept in relatively small spaces.
Look at that. So my dad asked a question. He says, "Is any of the naming issue brought on by the hobby or by all? Is it all scientific driven? A lot of that stuff's scientific driven, like the changes in genus and species and
it's all scientific, right?
Yeah, in the hobby where we'll call them whatever look, people still call green trees chondros, and they haven't been chondros for a long time. So we get to a name and we're like, yeah, no, that's the name. That's why I piss off people all the time when I talk about red tail boas, and I'm like, oh, that's a red tail. I'm like, that's a Colombian. It's got a red fucking tail, and it's been a red tail my entire life.
Yep,
still a red tail. It's like they're names. They're common names. We made that shit up anyways, and we're just at this point we're just trying to all agree on what imaginary name we want to all call the same thing. But if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. So
I saw the other day in a US based group, somebody posted one of the rat snakes, and Terry Herring got on there and was like, nope, some dummy wrote a book and this is the new taxonomy on it, so that's what we have to call it according to these people.
I like that. I agree.
Yeah.
Ashley Howdy said emeralds have crazy teeth. Oh yeah. No, and she says brains are unable to
Basins.
Camera was in my way. Basins are unable to be imported. Northerns are, so it's scarce. That makes sense.
Does make sense.
That's right. Because I'm assuming basins are out. You can't import stuff out of Brazil, right? Brazil shuts down importation.
Yeah, that would make sense. Why they're more costly as well.
Just ask Jeremy Stone and his solid white boa. You're not supposed to import stuff out of Brazil. That's how you get in trouble. But the teeth on an emerald scares the ever loving shit out of me.
Yeah. Me too.
And I say that I own rainbows, and it wasn't until years into owning my male rainbow that I realized they have teeth like that too. Like not as massive, but like you see a rainbow boa, and you're like, that thing lives on the ground, right? So it's got like boa teeth. First time my rainbow yawned, I was like, why the fuck does it have teeth that big? It doesn't need teeth that big. And I luckily have never been tagged by a full grown rainbow, but it would suck.
Yeah. And especially if it hits you in the right spot, it could do some real damage.
Yeah. And then you always, but that's the problem with emeralds. Every picture you end up seeing an emerald is like an emerald yawning online. It's like, it's just showing you what damage they can do. Because they're like, let's make a picture of these giant teeth. But, so Corey, let's talk about what else did you find in South America?
Yeah. So lots and lots and lots of frogs. Lots of frogs. We
don't lick the frogs.
What?
Don't lick the frogs.
Blake did. Blake
did. Blake's like, wait, if you lick this, you get high?
I think at one point Blake, he was holding one and then touched his mouth and it started getting like swelling or something, and not good.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go in air quotes on accident.
On accident. Yeah. What? Right. No. So we saw lots of frogs. We saw a lance head that someone in the village caught, but it was in the process of dying by the time we got to see it, and it was dead. And so that's that kind of thing is always the bummer. We saw a worm snake, I believe. That'd be cool. Yeah, that was really neat. Not a ton of snakes, but
like your trip to Africa, not a ton of snakes.
Also, not a ton of snakes in Africa when we went there.
Corey goes back to America and goes, there's not a lot of snakes in Africa and South America.
There's just no snakes. I don't know. Go figure.
I'm going to West Texas.
Um, no, so we saw monkeys a few times.
That was just
and
Blake.
That was really neat. We saw capuchins and we saw squirrel monkeys. Trying to think in terms of reptiles, what else we saw.
Did you see caiman or anything?
No, we did not see any caiman.
That sucks. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how often did it cross your mind, the fear of when you're walking through the jungle that you could get bit by a lancehead at any moment?
Every minute, like because there's like that thick leaf litter cover everywhere, and you just like trying to like walk over to find a bathroom spot or something, and you're just like praying that you're not like squatting over a spot where a lancehead decided to hang out.
God, what a horrible way to die.
I watched a herping video a while back where they were in the jungles down in Central America somewhere, and they found a snake, and he squatted down to look at it and realized that there was a bushmaster between his legs.
Wow.
Like a baby bushmaster, and he very gingerly moved away and managed to not get bitten.
Well, that was one of my favorite shots or scenes from any Crocodile Hunter episode when he's in North America, and he's like looking, he's like on the rocks looking for rattlesnakes, and he's kneeled down looking at something, and all of a sudden he hears rattling, and you see him go from like Steve Irwin to Steve Irwin.
Yeah.
And he realized right below his crotch, right there, was the rattlesnake. And so you see him move away and then go back into like TV mode. But that was the moment he goes, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, not as many snakes. We were hoping to find bushmasters. But
you saw parrots?
Did see parrots. But yeah, lots of different birds. That's lots of different birds. Lots of bugs, particularly of the mosquito variety. So this was an interesting thing. So Africa, there were lots and lots of different big bugs everywhere. In the areas of the Amazon rainforest where we didn't see a huge amount of bugs other than mosquitoes and cockroaches.
Do you get to the village and just wonder how the hell they live there and they don't get bitten?
It's amazing. I don't know how they do it. If they're all sleeping with, like, they must have all had mosquito nets or something, but I did not get a mosquito net. So yeah, I don't know how they weren't all bit up all the time.
Corey, what was it in Africa that you said you took the wrong malaria medicine?
Yeah. So
or is that in Peru?
So the medicine that I took in Africa made me really sick. So I spent the first day there throwing up. That was not what I wanted to be doing.
It wasn't Malarone?
No, it was doxycycline. And they told me to take it on an empty stomach, and that didn't work so well.
That's a horrible malaria medicine anyway.
Yeah.
You're lucky you didn't die, Corey.
I know. The second time I took something different, and I don't remember what it was. It's like a hyphenated name. Anyway, that one was much better. But I think I was the only one who even took malaria meds. So.
Look, I think at this point Blake's like, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die.
Pretty much. That's why I took a satellite phone with me just in case, because I was like, that is not my philosophy. I'm paying for helicopter rescue insurance. So.
But Corey, you had to get all the African shots, right?
I did, yeah.
I've been to Africa a couple times, and yeah, that's a beat down.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah. So we saw a lot of monitors when we were in Africa, so that was really cool.
I was about to say, if you saw a lot of monitors in South America, that'd have been amazing.
No, we did not see monitors. But we saw several lizards too. In that's what the other thing we saw a lot of in the Amazon. Number of different kinds of lizards. It was interesting. It was definitely, your stereotypical idea of going to the Amazon. You're thinking that there's just like animals everywhere, and it wasn't quite that lush. And I don't know if it was just the season or what, but the canopy is so high that it was really hard finding snakes.
Really? That would suck.
Yep.
So I'm hoping to go on a cruise in October. and one of the stops is in the Yucatan.
Yeah.
And when I looked at it, the port right across from the road is all wildlife refuge.
Oh, nice.
So I need to find somebody down there in the Yucatan willing to pick me up and just drive me to a jungle.
So when Rachel
find
went
shit.
on one of her cruises last year, they went. I guess they were in Belize. They drove like 3 hours into the jungle to do the zip lining.
Yeah,
and she said it was like she was just like, "Can we just stop here and go walk around?"
That's the thing. I don't want to do any of the excursions.
Right.
I just want to find someone that lives there that will like take me and a snake hook to the jungle and be like, "All right, here's the jungle." I just want to go see if I can find something. So
Well,
I've got
to be with you on that.
I know. I got till October to try and find somebody in the Yucatan that will just take me
I
to
saw
the jungle.
So we went to Cozumel last year, and I saw several crocodiles in Cozumel. So that
Really?
was neat.
So we went on a cruise 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and I saw the one cool thing I saw was a big iguana in I should know. It was Cozumel. I mean, it was one big black spiny iguanas, I think is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like we were sitting at a restaurant, and then just like right there, like a pigeon. It's on the fucking sidewalk, just walking. Like, this is amazing. Back home we have pigeons. That's not cool. This is an iguana sitting next to me.
Yep.
Also, ate at a place where I think was it do we go to Jamaica? I don't know where we went. At this point, I don't know. It was an island, but like there were tarpon, like right off the thing, like massive tarpon just swimming along the pier. And like, this is amazing. We don't have as cool stuff, and I get it. People are like, well, you went somewhere else. It's cooler there than it. But no, we don't have as cool stuff as other parts of the world. Like we have safe stuff. We're a fairly safe country. You know, black bears, coyotes, cougars. Those are other places have tigers and lions and things that like or snakes that can like kill you just by staring at you. That kind of shit. We have coral snakes who look cute and you can just poke them and they go away. Like we don't have the really cool deadly stuff, and I want to go find that stuff. But I don't want to die. That's the only thing is I don't want to go there and die. Like, it would suck. Like when you came up on those elephants, I would be horrified to just randomly walk up on elephants.
Oh my God. So that was the biggest difference herping in the two places. When you're herping somewhere where there are like things other than snakes that could literally kill you, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And we were blissfully naive to how dangerous it was the first few days until we actually saw the elephants and we're like, oh shit.
Like, this is Africa. Fuck, I forgot these things are here.
Yeah.
Screw the elephants. I would be mortified of the leopards.
Yeah.
The leopards will fuck you up and
find me dead in a tree eaten by a leopard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you talk about never saw it coming.
Yeah. Oh, we were walking through grass almost like up to our head and stuff. I mean, there could have been one anywhere. We had a guy with a gun who went everywhere with us.
Yeah. I'll tell you that guy with the gun, I went to Kruger, South Africa.
Oh, wow.
Probably a decade ago or longer. 2 weeks before we got there, a night guard with a gun was killed by a leopard.
Get out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
yeah, see,
leopards don't care if you got a gun.
Yeah.
That gun, you might as well have a knife.
Yeah.
I mean, because you'll never, especially at night, you'll never see them coming.
Yeah.
See, the worst thing about here, if I go herping, I run into an angry raccoon or possum, and then I just kick it. Like that's it. I'm not afraid of it killing me.
Or the random redneck that stops us. What are y'all doing out here?
That's true. that does scare me.
That might be the scariest animal.
Yeah.
That
one happens to us just about every time.
But yeah, you think about it. You go anywhere else on Earth where we really want to go herping, you can't just look for the things you're looking for. You have to look for everything else that could be looking for you.
Yeah.
So I want to go through a few things that I posted on our discussion group this week. One was an interesting one. It was in Georgia at like a wildlife refuge area. There was a gopher tortoise hole. Inside the gopher tortoise hole was a 4.5 foot alligator.
I saw that.
Like they looked down in the gopher tortoise hole and there's a 4.5 foot alligator sitting there staring at them. I'm like, yeah, you don't expect that. So just imagine going around and go, hey, go stick the snake hook down in that hole to see if there's like a rattlesnake, and then just an alligator comes out after you. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
That got posted twice. Apparently, Drew Schultz also thought it was interesting. Travis Wyman posted anything. It was a crab living inside of I'm gonna fuck this name up. Nepenthes ampulla is a pitcher plant. but it was a crab living inside the water, inside the pitcher plant. And I've seen some stuff like this where there's insects that actually live down in there, and they'll eat the insects that get trapped, and then the waste that's left is what the pitcher plant survives off of.
That's bizarre. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so instead of like finding a body of water, this crab just now lives in the liquid inside of this pitcher plant, and then eats whatever comes to the pitcher plant, which was odd. Another one was a video that I found of a salamander walking through the snow, like covered in snow, like it had just come out.
Oh, I saw that one.
Covered in snow, walking through the snow. Not very fast. It was moving pretty slow, but you just don't think of that. Like you think, oh, if that salamander's out in the snow, it's gonna die. And this one's just like roaming around while it's actively snowing.
Where was that? Where was that? Do you know?
It was a spotted salamander in Shindigan Hollow State Forest. Somewhere with ice. I don't know where that's at. It doesn't give me a New York. It looks like it says New York.
Huh.
So, another one I found was a boa constrictor that had tried to eat a porcupine.
Oh God!
And it had all the quills
all down its body.
Oh my God!
That's not coming out with a shed. That's not.
No.
Or soak. Just soak it.
Somebody just sent me a video.
Raise the temperature.
One of my friends just sent me a video on Instagram of it looks like an African rock python that tried to eat a mongoose, and all the rest of the monkeys came out to defend.
That'd be an Indian. A mongoose. That'd be Indian.
Oh, Indian, yeah.
Ooh,
And it is not going well for the python.
Wow.
Picked the wrong fight.
Yeah.
Oh. Trying to see what else there was. There's some other interesting things that got posted this week. Oh, you posted one today from was a local police station, the snake on the beach.
Yeah, one of our local police departments down on the beach, small town, sent one of their officers out and killed a Western Diamondback. And then, the person who lived there, who also works for the city, posted a picture about what a wonderful morning it was, one less snake in the world or something like that. So I tagged the police department and was like, hey, let's talk about this. It's 2023 with the instant access to information and services that you guys have. There's two people that live in Surfside that will go relocate these snakes. And I got a couple of people together and got a couple of sets of stony tongues and a couple of snake hooks and a couple of venomous buckets donated.
Nice.
And I'm just waiting to hear back from their police chief and I have someone that has volunteered to go train them on how to safely relocate, because they get a lot of rattlesnakes on the beach down there because of the dunes are full of the cotton rats and so hopefully we can change their mind a little bit on that and maybe save a few snakes.
Neat.
Very cool.
Someone else posted this in our group, but I also found this one too. The title alone on this Yahoo Answers thing was this person was in the market for a frog. The title was, "Where can I buy a frog?" And in parentheses, "not for sexual reasons." Why does that need to be said? What?
Again, it's 2023.
That never crossed my mind when someone was looking for a frog.
Was it Blake? Was that Blake?
It would not say not for sexual reasons.
Good point. Good point.
That's so weird.
Yeah, you're like, it's like when you see warning labels, you're like, what had to happen to get that warning label? What happened? Were they at one point looking for a frog for sexual reasons? They just want people to know this is not that time. I don't need it for sexual reasons this time.
Not that kind of frog.
And which frog do you look for sexual reasons? Which one is like, are you looking for the sexy frog? Like, what is the?
Don't get bird poop frog.
I know. I saw that and I was like, okay, I'm just too vanilla. I don't understand any of this.
Darren Watson said in the chat that frogs are the new gerbils. Oh, gotta make sure it's the right frog, or else it'll have to be a bad day. This was an interesting video from Snake Road, which I thought was cool. It was they stopped counting after they counted 30 cottonmouths walking down this road. And amazingly,
we had a couple nights like that around here.
But amazingly, not a single one of these cottonmouths chased them.
I know. They're
weird. Over 30 of them, and not a single one thought to chase them. I don't know what was going on there.
They just all silently screamed. That's what the caption says. And now I can't see it any other way.
It's like you're watching it on mute, apparently, and it's just them screaming. This was a scary one. There was a tiger. I don't know if I haven't seen an update on it yet. But there was a tiger missing in Georgia after a tornado touchdown.
Let's find out.
Yeah. So see if anybody's been eaten. That could be interesting. But you think about that in Texas. There's so many tigers in Texas.
After Hurricane Harvey here, when we had all the really bad flooding, there were some people out trying to walk and check their neighborhood.
Oh yeah, I remember that. There was
Here comes a tiger out. It's like, hey y'all, and like came up and jumped up and put its paws on the guy's shoulder.
Whoa.
And started licking it, like licked his face.
I'd shit myself.
Apparently, it was someone's pet that had gotten out. It was super friendly and super tame. So they literally like put a dog leash around its neck and led it back to their house and put it in a room and called and got somebody to come get it. And it ended up, they found the owner and it was being kept illegally. And they took it.
It sounds just like The Hangover. Was it Mike? Was it Mike Tyson?
I mean, almost the same. But I remember watching that on the news, going, "Holy shit, that could have gone completely the opposite way very quickly."
Yeah.
If they come to get the tiger afterwards, they're like, "Did it shit in your house? What's that smell?" No, that's me. I shit myself.
It was like a half-grown tiger. Had it been a full-grown tiger,
I would have had a half-grown shit then. But still, it doesn't matter.
2 tigers briefly missing after Georgia Zoo tornado.
Okay, it's 2 tigers.
Yeah,
damn.
That shit happened in Houston too.
Yeah, they walked right out in the front yard.
Yeah, the big hurricane that decimated Houston a few years back.
That's what I'm talking about. That was Hurricane Harvey.
But there was another one.
But then we had another one here like a year and a half, 2 years ago, where it just walked out somebody's front door across the street where these kids are having a birthday party. And the guy walks out and like starts leading it back into his house. And then he puts it in the back seat of a Nissan Altima and drives off. And come to find out, he was out on bond for a murder out of Fort Bend County.
Just trying to hide the body of
this tiger. Yeah.
I'd say only in Texas, but there's Oklahoma too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Oh, so I found this one because I was actually watching another video. It was a true or false. And they were asked questions about Mississippi, and this question was asked about Mississippi, and it was false. But I found out this is true in Kentucky. The law states that any person who displays, handles, or uses any kind of reptile in connection with any religious service or gathering shall be fined not less than $50 nor more than $100. So I was like, that's an interesting one. Now, granted, that's an area where there's a lot of snake handling Pentecostals.
That doesn't seem super constitutional to me, but
no.
They're really trying
to. No, that definitely seems like an infringement of the separation.
We're really trying to make a point with that $50 to $100 fine,
yeah, 50,
aren't they?
It's $50. Send it around the collection plate. We're going to pay for it this time.
Yeah.
But well, I mean, because you had was it in Tennessee or North Carolina? There was the one preacher who died from a snake bite, and then his son died from a snake. His son was a preacher, and he died from a snake bite. And you're like, huh.
It's a rite of passage.
Yep. Keep it in the family.
They probably did before that too.
Oh boy,
Robert,
wow,
you posted.
there.
Oh boy,
you posted one from Reptile Garden of a baby albino gaboon viper,
and that extreme.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Wow.
But they said that what did they say? The strike was like 0.25 milliseconds.
Yeah,
and 1,000 milliseconds is a second.
So 250 milliseconds.
Yeah.
So yeah, and in 1 second being 1,000 milliseconds, so less. Jesus,
a quarter of a second it took it to strike.
Wow,
that's insane.
I still want a gaboon viper. That doesn't scare me away from it. I mean, I wouldn't be keeping it in a tub that I could open and get bit from. So it'd be a little different. Oh, were you the one also posted? Oh no, Ryan Gosso posted this from Omaha Henry Dorley Zoo. It was Parentes. It was a group of Parentes. I was like, that's freaking awesome.
They're babies that they raised up there, raised up there.
8 Parenti hatchlings are now 22 inches long and weigh 135.5 grams. I was like, that's awesome. Wow. Parentes are a really cool one.
Parentes are so cool.
So those are things that got posted over on our group. Some interesting things got posted over there. But so yeah, just know that you can't take snakes into a church in Kentucky, and someone's out there looking for frogs if you can hook them up,
but not for sexual reasons.
Not for sexual. Right. Keep your sexual frogs to yourself. They don't need them this time.
Swipe left.
Oh
God. I think.
Well, I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Brian again this week because there's been some new developments in his.
Go ahead.
his illness. I guess I haven't watched his last couple videos, but I watched one Thursday or Friday last week.
It was Brian Barczyk for anybody.
Brian Barczyk. They told him that it's inoperable, that the cancer's inoperable, and he sounded like he was taking it as well as you could expect. But like we said before, no matter how you feel about the guy, and things that's happened in the past, he's still a human being, and he's still been a big influence for people coming into this hobby. And I would never wish what he's going through on my worst enemy.
Horrible. Yeah, that sucks.
So, but they are. I wonder where they're at now. They're trying to raise money to finish the. They're going to call it the Legacy Aquarium, because he had already spent about $500,000 on it, and had $1 million of his own money left, but was getting a loan from the bank for the $2.5 million. But of course, when the bank found out that he has terminal cancer, they're like, "Well, we really can't give you $2.5 million anymore." And he would have to spend almost that whole $1 million that he has left just to get it back into sellable condition. So he's wanting to leave that, for his wife and his family as part of his legacy. Last I checked, the first day they were already at like $170,000.
That's good.
That's amazing.
I honestly haven't watched since he started building the aquarium. I may go find a video at some point and watch that.
I got to tour that facility very early. The last October Tinley, after Tinley, a few of us went to Brian's place, visited the Reptarium, and we got to see what's now going to be the Legacy Aquarium.
Wow.
And it's a huge, what did it used to be? Not a dollar store, but it was like a giant, like a Walmart or something like that. And it was, when we saw it, completely gutted. I mean, it looked terrible. So I can see the amount of money that would have to go into a place that size. It's absolutely massive. It's the Reptarium times 10 or 20.
Wow.
Is it nearby the Reptarium?
It's directly across the street. You literally, cross the street and you're into the parking lot, and then it's a giant parking lot. It used to be what was it called? Big's a lot or something a lot.
Big Lots.
Big Lots. It used to be a Big Lots. So the parking lot's massive. The building's massive, and boy, so much work to be done on it.
Did he ever? I know at one point he was talking about building out the basement of the Reptarium, which used to be where all his animals were, but he's building it out as more Reptarium zoo space. Did he ever build out the bottom of that? Or did he go on to the aquarium?
When I was there, the bottom of that, I don't think it had undergone any significant changes. You still had a lot of animals there, and that's where they had built out their colubrid area. They had a separate colubrid place there. But I would just like to echo what you said. I know Brian well. He's just a few years younger than I am, and when something like that happens to him, I've had some trouble dealing with it, myself. Like, I kind of look at him and go, "Hey, we're both relatively good shape for our age," and when something like that happens to somebody, our age, it really, really makes you think, like, man, I'm going to go out today and just think how blessed I am,
Yeah.
Katie came home today. One of her students, she taught back in Louisiana. Her mom was also a teacher, and her mom passed last night. She had a seizure in the bathtub and then drowned.
Wow.
Yeah.
She drowned in the bathtub after that.
Well, my close friends know this, but back in 2011, I got diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And the only reason I went and got tested at 31 years old is because one of my good friends had it, and I was at a benefit for him and was just asking him, "What made you get tested?" And he starts telling me about these symptoms, and I'm going, wow. Yeah, I have all of those. He's like, "Dude, go get tested for me."
Wow.
And I did, and the doctor said, if you'd come a month ago, we might not have caught it.
What are the symptoms?
Restless leg syndrome. There are a bunch of them. Constant just fatigue, and at then I was 31, 12 years ago. I was in a little better shape than I am now. I had some different things that were growing that were weird.
Gotcha.
which I'm experiencing again, as you know. So there was just several little things that he was telling me, and they were like lining up. And that was the whole reason that I went, is because of Chris. And he survived, and I survived. And he was stage 4 when he got diagnosed and beat it, and has been cancer free for 10 plus years now. He was truly a miracle.
Crazy.
But I mean, my wife, the people that she's working for now, the lady's 40 and has stage 4 kind of a lung cancer. Never been a smoker. She's a nurse practitioner who teaches nurses. She's a professor at a nursing school, and 2 small kids. You know, you just never know.
That's wild.
Well, yeah, like I said, I talked before, my sister-in-law passing away last year.
Yeah,
of just an aneurysm,
a headache.
Yeah, had a headache for a couple of days, and then aneurysm died.
Yeah,
and left behind
at
3 young kids.
31. Yeah.
So
right,
you know,
you
know, I will say one thing, and maybe finish it with this. Brian was very instrumental and very forward with the fact that he did not have life insurance.
Yes, I was going to say that.
So he was very emphatic. If you are a young person, or if you have a family, get fucking life insurance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Term life insurance is not expensive.
It's so cheap. It takes one day, especially now. I'm sure you can do everything online. Get $200,000 or get $1 million in life insurance. If you're young and you're healthy, it's so cheap, and it could change not your life, but it could change your family's life.
That's really, really good advice.
Well, like he said in the video, he's relatively young. It was in good health up until the minute he wasn't.
Yep.
And now it's too late to get life insurance because they're not going to give it to him at this point. Yeah, it's just it's scary, man. Life is short.
I agree. One other thing that's happening in the hobby that's not death related, there is new ownership and CEO of Morph Market.
Yep.
John Lehman is no longer I say no longer in charge. I'm sure he's involved.
He said he's
still
involved. Yep.
But John Lehman is now going to be able to, I guess, take vacations.
Yeah.
I heard they sold that for 100 million roaches. Is that true?
You never know.
I'd have to do the conversion on that. What is that into rats, and then into mice, and then into money?
Yeah.
But so yeah.
Congratulations to John. John's a Dallas.
Absolutely.
John's a Dallas guy. Know, I've known John since literally the month that he put Morph Market together. He contacted me not too long after they got ball pythons going about green trees.
Oh, we just lost Corey.
Oh no.
Bye, Corey. Love you.
She'll come back.
Her computer got COVID.
And he wanted to talk about getting carpet pythons. At the time, I was big into producing carpet pythons and green tree pythons in a Morph Market. And I said, carpet pythons, go for it. Let's do it. Let's get the localities. Let's get the because at the time, like a jaguar was a big genetic deal. A carpet python. Let's get that going. I go, but leave the green trees alone for a while. It's just not. No, let's just leave it alone for a while. Because I knew what he would get there.
Well, it's interesting what he's done with that. So we talked forums earlier, right? And anybody that was around knows King Snake Forum, and they used to have, and I guess they still do, but they used to have their classified section on there.
Oh, yeah, that was how you sold stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny. This is what happens when you don't evolve with the hobby, because King Snake, if you go to the website now, looks exactly the same as it did then.
Is that right?
And their classified section is exactly the same as it was then.
I haven't been there in 5 or 6 years.
Don't worry, you didn't miss anything. It was the way you left it. And so what John Lehman did with Morph Market, it really looks exactly the same.
It is like a
red and white.
1998.
Is that right? Did
website.
You pull it up? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, but what John Lehman did with Morph Market, it really changed the hobby. We talked about before, when you go to a show and vendors are like, how much should I price this? Used to be, well, so-and-so has it on his table. So, but now it's just check Morph Market. What's the price on Morph Market? And
I know, it's awesome. It's amazing. It's a great story. I love to see that. I love to see it for the reptile community, and I love to see it just for small business.
Yeah, I agree. So, but that was those are some big things that happened this week in the hobby. I guess Corey, I don't know. She may remember. If she doesn't come back, check out Corey Martin's Reptiles on Facebook. She'll have maybe monitors for sale soon because she's now become the monitor queen. And then blackhead pythons at some point, I'm sure. And she won't have green trees because she only has girls apparently. So
I'm gonna fix that.
help her out. Make her realize she needs a male to fix that problem.
I'm gonna fix that for her.
I was trying to see. Oh, the Reddy said that's actually how they met Sean was through King Snake. I met several people through King Snake. Oh, there's Corey. She said, sorry, your computer decided to shut down and run updates. Oh, so she's done for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I met several people through King Snake before I ever met them in person. Like, so we had Kai Fan on earlier this year, or last year, whatever it was. I've never met him in person, but I've known him since since King Snake. I don't know, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a weird thing, but. All right, Bill, if people want to get a hold of you and ask you all sorts of crazy questions about why your snakes are so expensive and why they bite, how can they get a hold of you?
I'm more likely to bite than the snakes. But so my Instagram is phoenix.reptiles. My Facebook, I've got a Phoenix Reptiles Facebook, but I'm more active on my personal page, which is just Bill Stegall. Those are probably the best ways to reach out to me.
I got to text Katie about bringing me home food.
No.
Robert, tell them how they can get hold of you.
lsreptileracks.com is the best way. Just click on the contact me and send me an email. Pretty simple.
Yes, or check them out at
any herp show.
Yeah,
except for Oklahoma City.
Except for because no one's going to Oklahoma. Who wants to go to Oklahoma?
In fact, I'm going to be in Oklahoma. The only herp show I'm vending in 2023 is going to be Oklahoma.
I'm
so
sorry,
you'll be there.
Bill.
And was that July? Yeah.
Yep.
You have fun in Oklahoma.
Love Oklahoma.
Not making
but it's also a lot shorter drive for him.
It is a lot shorter drive for him.
And I've got family there. So.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So
he won't be selling Warren Booth there anymore.
Oh no, he's off in Virginia now.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Lee Reddy said he just got his Lone Star rack this weekend, and it's awesome.
That's right. He bought one of the 40 breeder cages.
Those 40 breeder cages. Whoever came up with that idea was a genius.
Yeah, I think it was John Grant.
Fuck that. It was me. I'm taking the credit. If you want to get a hold of us, it's the Reptile Gumbo Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and at gmail.com. Also, pay attention to Facebook this week and also the show next week. We will be talking about our giveaways for April. Again, we're giving away a Herpstat thermostat thanks to Colossal Constrictors. Looking forward to that. Plus, they told me they're throwing in another pizza party for the crew of Reptile Gumbo Podcast at some point, so I'm getting free pizza at some point. Cool. So y'all get a thermostat and we get pizza.
Darren, that's when we're gonna have the Red Tail Hawk. Trying to get Hayden nailed down is like trying to herd cats.
Yeah.
She has a lot going on. We'll get her here eventually.
And then we'll bring her hawk will be right here somewhere.
She might bring her kestrel too. You never know.
Her crazy kestrel. That's right. She got a kestrel now. And then when we finally get our chameleon, I'm seriously gonna put it like right here in front of the camera.
I think you should just put a stick there
and see if it'll hang out.
Or you could get a green tree, put it on a stick there.
That's true. Yeah. Get a green. Each week we'll trade it out for animals that don't move. But Bill, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
If you'll hang out a minute as we log off. Goodbye to everybody. Thank y'all for watching. We'll be back next week. I do have a guest lined up for next week, so that's not a question. I'm not telling anybody. I don't want to jinx it, but there is a guest lined up for next week. And we'll be back next week. Again, use code Gumbo22 on VivTech. Just after that out there again, go buy some bulbs, folks. Get us some money there.
Definitely.
Good night. See y'all next week.
Thank you, guys.